So you recently, like in the last handful of years, if I'm understanding correctly, became a Christian. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah.
I would love to hear about that journey and landing there. And also what I'd love to hear about that is I think of you as somebody who's very logic minded, and adopting a faith
Yeah.
and stuff like
Yeah.
that does not necessarily support logic,
I know.
or those are competing things. So I'd love to hear about that journey.
Yeah. I hesitate to talk about it like too much. So, but yes. So
Yeah,
I got like,
wherever you want to go with it.
I mean, I'm good with it. I'm not ashamed. But I also like, I understand the stigma because I got baptized on my 40th birthday. Like, I'm like a born again Christian. And I swear, no one rolled their eyes more at the concept of someone dunking their head in water and saying, I'm saved, I'm a born again Christian. No one rolled their eyes more than me. Like, if you're listening and someone's just like, oh, please, I am skeptical of those people. I was more skeptical, I assure you. So yeah, so how did I get there? I I started just I'm all logic and social science and secular thinking as I started to really dive into that, and it kept leading me to this idea that there's a whole lot to it, but essentially, I in the secular things, a whole bunch of elements. I'm trying to think how to like coherently put it together. But like one thing was I sought out to do what I always promote, which is seek disconfirmation. So um I was actively trying to prove Christianity wrong, which is like I just thought it was like, or like faith. I think first it was just like the idea of God is like wrong. So I read a lot of atheist books. So,
Wow.
Christopher Hitchens, Sam Harris, the God Delusion, Dawkins, all these people. I watched a lot of debates, and it left me like, wait a second, there's something missing from here. Then when all like the crazy, like woke stuff came out, part of where that stemmed from was the new atheist movement. I had a biologist named Colin Wright on my podcast, and he was talking about, he's like a strong atheist. I had Peter Boghossian. He wrote a book, How to Create Atheists, on my podcast.
Mm.
And these are people who are anti-woke. So, like a better term, like just basically the critical social justice stuff. They're very critical of that. And what I found was the people who were anti-woke, why? It's because they don't like the dogmatic kind of like faith kind of way of just like believing things that aren't rooted in logic or reason. And a lot of those kinds of things, like they just believe it in their core, they believe it in their heart, and that's all there is to it. And it sounded to those atheists a lot like people who have religion. It's like, I just believe it in my heart. So why do you think that, whatever, black people are out being hunted by police all day when Roland Fryer's studies and the crime statistics don't show that? It's like, I just know it in my heart. I feel it. I had an experience, and that experience transformed me. That sounds very religious, right?
Right.
So that was going on. And then when I'm understanding the social science of this. So then after I was doing that, then I started reading. I was like, okay, let me read some Christian books. So I read like Mere Christianity by C.S. Lewis and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And read Tim Keller's the Reason for God and stuff. And I was like, okay, well, this is interesting. There's some logic behind these like apologetic stuff. But I don't see any conflict between science and faith. I think that at the end of the day, like one thing I'm really diving into now is understanding placebo effect. Okay.
Mm.
So there are studies where people have clinical anxiety, right? And they're taking anxiety medication, lorazepam or something like that. And then they're told 100 people, they're told 50 of you tomorrow are going to get a sugar pill and 50 are going to get your lorazepam. Okay. All 100 had their anxiety come back. The power of placebo effect is extremely strong, extremely strong. Apparently Fireball was making these little bottles of whiskey that didn't have any alcohol in it, but people were drinking them and feeling drunk. So if you really believe something, your brain chemistry, I think Dr. Kelly Brogan was talking about this, like
Mm-hmm.
your brain chemistry changes.
Yeah.
So
Dr. Joe Dispenza is all about this stuff.
Joe
Yeah.
Dispenza, yes. So if you really believe in faith, even if you're just saying it's nonsense, I'm gonna believe in this, it will benefit your life Okay, so that could be it. And I was talking to a pastor and I was talking about placebo effect. He's like, you know what we call it? We call it faith. So, okay, so if you just deeply believe in this thing, it will work out for your life in real positive ways. It will benefit you. People go, well, that's nonsense. It's like, well, but but by definition, it can't be nonsense in that realm. So but it's not just that, but that's like one thing that where like the secular and the religious move together. I believe, and this is like something John Haidt, who's also an atheist, talks about, is we have some sort of container in us to believe in a higher power. So that's going to be filled by something. Whatever is, at the end of the day, we have a hierarchy. At the end of the day, whatever is at the top of that, the most important thing in your life is going to be your God, for lack of a better term. So whatever that is, you put that at the top of everything. You need to put something up there. So choose that wisely. Choose that wisely. And then that's another thing that led me to it. I got a whole lot here. Another thing is, if you are an atheist, I don't think it's coherent thinking to believe in free will. Sam Harris talks about this. Like, if you are just chemicals and electrical signals and hormones and stuff like that, then you don't actually get a choice to decide. I don't have a choice to decide to tap that mic. It's just my biology. It's like billiard balls on a table. In the same barometric pressure, the same wind, the same temperature, the same force, the balls move the same. And people like Sam Harris, who are strong atheists, neuroscientists, smart guys, don't believe in free will. And so prisons get a little gnarly and stuff like that, but we understand. But like, I do believe in free will. So I said, okay, so I was going through this whole process. This is multiple years. Once you have free will, then what do you do? Okay, so I'm not an atheist. So maybe I'm just an agnostic. So there's something out there and we don't know what. That wasn't satisfactory to me. We don't know what. Well, how hard are you looking? And if you have a question of like, there's something, how hard are you actually looking into it? So I looked hard. I read like so many books. And then I was like, all right, I'll read a Bible. Yeah, and I started reading Bible. And then I was like, oh, there's actually good wisdom in here. Like, how is it that in the Old Testament, like they knew to wash your hands before eating? That was long before germ theory. There's stuff in like Jewish culture that they still adhere to, which is like the Old Testament, of sitting Shiva, which is like you have to mourn when someone dies. You have to sit for 7 days and just cry. You don't bathe. People take care of you. How did they know to do that? Like there's these structures for like how to live life. You need a blueprint. I don't know how to live life. I don't know. I need a guide. I need a map. And if I don't have a map, I'm going to wander around aimlessly. So I need a map. So I need to pick a map. What map am I going to choose? This seems like a good map. I'll try it. And I chose the map of Christianity, the map, because I like the map of like, this is a guide. And it also has like, when I tell my kids to make a project, here, you should do a project on World War II. Here is an A+ from last year. So you have an idea of what the ideal perfect aim is. That's Jesus. He lived perfect. I'm not going to get the A+. I'm not going to live like him. But if I can have that as like a guide, all right, I can kind of work towards, at least I have an aim for where to go on my map. So it was like, that's a lot. So it's like all of these things came together and I was like, all right, I'm just going to lean into it. I'm going to go all in. And as I did it, my life got quantifiably, measurably better in every way. When I'm scared, I'm less scared. When I'm happy, I'm more happy. I'm a better father. I'm a better parent. I'm softer. I have that, like, what would Jesus do thing in the back of my head all the time when someone's being mean to me and stuff like that. So it works for me. And I did not want to be Christian. I did not see that. I did not try to do this. It became illogical for me not to. For me, I say for everybody, but for me, it became illogical not to. That was a lot.
And no, thank you so much for sharing all of that. That's fascinating. I love your process for navigating it. Right, it's very, as you said, similar to how you dive into so many other issues and curiosities.